I clapped harder than I probably should have when Rachel's boss, Alan, called the room to attention. It felt like the right thing to do, like I was part of the moment even though I felt like an outsider. I couldn't help it. She'd worked her ass off to get here, and damn it, I was proud of her. Alan's voice echoed around the swanky downtown ballroom as he introduced her, outlining her projects, her leadership, her dedication. It was a glowing speech, the kind that made people lean in and nod like they'd known her since grade school. Rachel's achievements weren't just hers, they were his to claim too. When he finished, I stood with the others and applauded, maybe a little louder than most, but I didn't care. Rachel was about to step up and give her speech, and I was hoping for one small acknowledgement, just a mention of me, nothing big, maybe just a smile in my direction. Something to show I wasn't invisible. She took the stage with that confident stride, her back straight and her chin high, all elegance, just like she always was. I couldn't help but notice the way the light hit her hair, how it shimmered like gold. For a moment, I let myself believe that maybe she'd see me tonight. "Thank you, Alan, and thank you to everyone who helped me get here," she began, her voice calm but assertive. The room was silent, hanging on her every word. She rattled off thanks to her firm, her colleagues, the mentors who'd shaped her career, and even a quick shout-out to Linda, the office receptionist who had once sent her a forgotten package. But not me. She didn't mention me. I tried not to let it get to me, but I couldn't help it. That omission, intentional, I was sure, stung like a slap. It felt like the floor had dropped out from under me for a second, and I was left dangling in front of a room full of strangers. The crowd clapped, and I did too, though my hands felt stiff. I leaned back in my chair, forcing myself to breathe. She'd been caught up in the moment, right? She hadn't meant to leave me out. I told myself that over and over as I watched her finish her speech. She wrapped it up with the usual professional smile, and the room erupted in applause. I stood with them, but my heart wasn't in it anymore. It felt like all the air had been sucked out of the room. I wasn't just a husband in the background anymore. I was a nobody. I made my way toward her afterward, trying to push past the knot of resentment growing in my chest. I just needed to talk to her, get a quick moment to connect. But as I stepped forward, she was already turning away. Her head whipped back to her colleagues, locking eyes with Mr. Porter, a gray-haired developer from her firm. She smiled at him, the kind of smile that was warm and maybe just a little too inviting. They laughed about something, her hand resting lightly on his arm, her fingers brushing against his sleeve like it was nothing. And the thing that hit hardest wasn't that they were talking. It was the way she acted like she hadn't seen me, like she'd barely noticed I was there. I stood there, rooted to the spot, my stomach twisting. I wasn't just invisible anymore. I was a shadow in her world, something to be ignored while she played at being something she wasn't with him. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but before I could, I felt a tap on my shoulder. "Hey, Mark, right?" I turned around to find Steve, a guy whose wife worked in Rachel's HR department. He was holding a drink in his hand, smiling awkwardly like he wasn't sure if he was intruding. "Yeah, that's me," I replied, trying to mask the tension in my voice. "I saw you clapping over there," Steve said, nodding in Rachel's direction. "You must be pretty proud of her." "Of course I am," I said, forcing a smile. "Yeah, she's something," Steve replied, and then he lowered his voice, like he was sharing some big secret. "You know, Rachel and Porter have been spending a lot of time together lately. Late nights at the office, project meetings, stuff like that. You're probably aware of all the late hours, right?" I nodded stiffly, but a sinking feeling was starting to fill me up. "Yeah, of course. They're busy." Steve gave a small smile, then leaned in slightly. "I just want to be straight with you, man. You know how these things go. Sometimes the lines get a little blurry, you know? I don't know if it's anything serious, but..." The unease that had started in my gut twisted, deepened. I swallowed hard. "Yeah?" I asked, trying to sound nonchalant, though my voice was rough around the edges. Just keep an eye out," Steve said, his voice lowering. "I've seen this play out before. The corporate spouse, you know, left out of the picture, while the other one, well, they've got a little more time for their work." I took a step back, my hand gripping the side of my glass a little too tightly. "Thanks for the heads up, Steve," I said, the words coming out flat. As he turned and walked away, I looked back at Rachel and Porter. She was still laughing at whatever joke he'd told, still touching his arm. I noticed the way her eyes were just a little too sparkly, the way she leaned in a little too much. The tension in my chest hadn't eased. It was a knot I couldn't shake, one that was only getting tighter as I watched the two of them. I could feel it now, like the whole room was in on something I wasn't. The way Rachel's colleagues shot me glances, the sideways looks, the nods, like they all knew something about her that I didn't. I had no proof of anything yet, no evidence. But the whispers were already taking shape in my mind, wrapping themselves tighter with each passing second. She'd thanked everyone but me. And now, the question echoed in my head. Was there something more to this than just work? Scene 3. The rumor. I couldn't shake the feeling that the entire night had turned into a slow, painful burn. Everything felt off, from the moment Rachel brushed past me without a second look, to the way Porter seemed to have her undivided attention. The whole evening was like a cruel game I wasn't invited to play. I grabbed another drink from the bar, trying to drown the unease that was gnawing at me. The bartender gave me a sympathetic smile, the kind that only someone who'd witnessed too many awkward moments in a ballroom could give. I was starting to regret wearing that jacket. What was the point of trying to fit in when no one even seemed to notice? Mark? I turned around to find Steve standing behind me. He was holding his drink like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. Hey, Steve. I forced a smile, trying not to look too obvious as I glanced back toward Rachel and Porter. They were still by the buffet, laughing together, looking comfortable in a way I couldn't touch. Steve took a sip of his drink before leaning in slightly, lowering his voice. Listen, I don't want to get into anyone's business, but you should know. I heard some things. I raised an eyebrow, trying to mask my curiosity. What kind of things? Rachel and Porter. He hesitated before continuing, a small smirk creeping into his expression. I mean, it's probably nothing, but word around the office is they've been spending a lot of time together. Late nights, you know? My stomach dropped, but I tried to brush it off. They're working. I mean, they're both busy, right? Steve leaned in closer, lowering his voice again. I get it, man. It's work, but I've seen this before. Corporate spouses, always left in the dark, ignored while the other ones got someone else to lean on. The words hit harder than I expected. I was so tired of being the last to know, of feeling like the second choice in Rachel's life. Are you trying to say? I started, but Steve cut me off. Look, I'm not saying they're anything more than business partners, he said, holding up a hand like he was trying to ease my mind. But, well, I've seen how Rachel's eyes light up around him, and I'm not talking about the kind of spark that happens when you're talking about architecture. It's different. I stood frozen, trying to push away the sinking feeling spreading through me. You really think it's something more? Steve shrugged. I don't know, man, but I'd keep my eyes open. I just thought you should know. I nodded, but my mind was already racing. Of course, Rachel would never admit anything to me. Hell, she probably didn't even see it the way Steve did. But I couldn't ignore the way she'd looked at Porter earlier, the way she smiled and touched his arm. It was the kind of familiarity I hadn't been given all night. Thanks for the heads up, Steve, I muttered, though I wasn't sure if I meant it. No problem. Steve gave me a short nod before walking away, disappearing into the crowd. I tried to refocus, tried to convince myself that it was nothing, that Rachel was just being her usual professional self. But the more I thought about it, the harder it was to swallow. Why hadn't she mentioned any of this? Why hadn't she made time for me tonight? Why did it feel like she was so caught up in her own world, with Porter, that I was just a guy who happened to be standing on the sidelines? I watched as Rachel and Porter continued to talk, oblivious to the fact that I was watching them from across the room. Porter's hand was resting casually on the small of her back now, and I couldn't help but notice how intimate the gesture looked, even in a professional setting. It wasn't just the late nights. It wasn't just the meetings. It was everything, the way she looked at him, the way she laughed at his jokes like he was more than just a colleague. I could feel my hands tightening around the glass, the cold liquid barely doing anything to numb the anxiety creeping through me. But then something else caught my eye. I saw Rachel slip her phone out of her purse. She typed something quickly, then smiled at the screen before slipping it back in. I couldn't stop myself. My feet moved before I even realized it, and I was walking across the room towards her and Porter. But as I got closer, my heart sank again. Rachel, I said, trying to sound casual as I approached them. She turned and flashed me a smile, but it was distant. Forced. "Oh, hey," she said, like she hadn't just been engaged in an intense conversation a second ago. "Mind if I steal you for a second?" I asked, hoping she'd take the hint and excuse herself from Porter. But she didn't. Instead, her smile softened and she glanced at Porter. "I'm actually just wrapping up something with Porter. We're going over next week's schedule. You know, work stuff." I nodded, forcing the sting back down my throat. "Of course. Just wanted to say hi." Porter gave me a nod and a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Hey, Mark. Nice to see you, man." I forced a smile and nodded back, but as I stepped away, I noticed the way Rachel lingered for a moment too long, the way she didn't move until Porter gave her a quick nudge, as if he were making sure she didn't forget about him. I felt like I was losing ground. The rumors, the glances, the subtle touches, they were all adding up in a way I couldn't ignore anymore. I turned away, walking back to the bar, trying to hold it together, but deep down, I knew something had changed. Maybe nothing physical had happened yet, but it felt like it was only a matter of time. I tried to shake the feeling, tried to focus on the night ahead, but every second, every word, felt like it was building up to something I couldn't control, something I wasn't sure I wanted to face. And when I saw Rachel make plans with Porter, dinner plans not just for work, I knew the rumors weren't just whispers anymore. They were the truth. Scene 4. The confrontation at home. I didn't tell Rachel I was leaving the event early. It wasn't like I had a plan. I didn't. I just couldn't stand being there anymore. I'd been invisible to her all night, and I wasn't going to sit through more of her charm offensive with Porter while I faked a smile. I drove home in silence, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. She hadn't even mentioned me in her speech. She'd thanked a million people, including people I'd never even heard of, but not me. After everything I'd done, after everything I'd sacrificed to help get her here, I was a ghost. I was starting to feel like I never mattered to her. When the door slammed behind me, I was already pacing. I heard the click of her heels, the sound of Rachel coming in, but I didn't move. I wasn't going to pretend anymore. She stepped inside, dropping her coat on the chair, and gave me a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "You left early," she said, casual, like she hadn't noticed anything wrong. "Everything okay?" "Everything's fine," I said, turning to face her. My voice was too steady, too calm. "I was just tired. You seemed like you were having fun." She didn't get it. She didn't get what I was saying. "Mark, don't be like this." She sighed, walking toward me. "It was a professional environment. I was busy and you—" "Busy?" I cut her off before she could finish. "You were too busy to even acknowledge I was there." Rachel's face dropped for a split second before she tried to cover it up. "What are you talking about? I thanked everyone. You know it's just formalities." I stared at her. "Formalities?" "No," I said, shaking my head. "No, Rachel, you didn't thank me. You didn't even mention me. It's like I was invisible to you." My voice cracked, just a little. I hated it. She took a step closer, but I took a step back, crossing my arms. "I don't need you to thank me. I didn't do it for that. I did it because I wanted you to succeed." Rachel looked frustrated, like she was already over this conversation. "I don't have time for a scene right now, Mark. We both know what this is about. You're angry because I didn't thank you in front of everyone." "I'm angry because you didn't thank me," I spat, my fists clenching at my sides. "But that's not even the worst part. It's the way you treated me all night. You barely even noticed I was there. And don't try to tell me that's just work. I saw you with Porter. You were all over him." Her eyes narrowed. "What are you trying to say, Mark?" "I'm trying to say you've been treating me like I'm some accessory to your life that you can just hide when it's convenient. I'm not just your husband, but that's how you treat me. Like I don't matter unless it's for your career." She opened her mouth, but the words didn't come out right away. I could see her trying to hold herself together, her eyes flickering with something I couldn't quite place. But I didn't care. I wasn't going to back down. "You're overreacting," she said finally, her voice defensive. "I didn't mean to." "No, Rachel, you never mean to. You've been doing this for months, and I've let it slide, but I can't keep pretending I don't see it." My voice was shaking now, and I didn't give a damn. "You think because you're so focused on your career, on being this self-made woman, that you can just ignore me. Like I don't matter. Like you don't need me." She blinked, her eyes flickering with something I couldn't read. "Mark, I'm not trying to ignore you. It's not like that. Well, it sure as hell feels like it is, I said, turning away from her. I've been trying to support you, to be there for you, but you've kept me at arm's length. It's like I don't even exist when it's inconvenient for you. She stepped forward again, her tone softer. I didn't mean to hurt you. You're just what? I turned back to face her. You're just so focused on your image, on being something that you've forgotten that I'm here too. I'm your partner, your husband. But you've made me feel like an afterthought. The silence between us was thick, suffocating. I saw her open her mouth, but no words came out. She just stared at me, her lips parted, like she was searching for something to say. But I wasn't waiting anymore. I'm leaving, I said, my voice firm now. I need some space. I need to think. Rachel's eyes widened in shock. Mark, wait. No, I'm done, I said, cutting her off. I started toward the bedroom, grabbing a bag and throwing a few things inside. I could hear her calling my name, but I didn't stop. Not this time. I wasn't her second choice anymore. I wasn't going to sit around while she treated me like I didn't matter. Where are you going? She asked, voice rising now, desperate. But I didn't answer. I grabbed the keys and I left. I drove to Dave's place knowing I had to get out. I couldn't be in that house with her. Not when I felt like I didn't even exist in her world. When I finally pulled up to Dave's house, I didn't feel any better. But at least I wasn't there. At least I wasn't being ignored. I went inside, found the couch, and collapsed on it, staring at the ceiling. I hadn't expected any of this. Hell, I hadn't even known what I was doing until it was too late. But maybe this was the start of something I couldn't undo. Scene 5. Brotherly advice. I didn't tell Dave what was going on until he asked. The second I walked into his house, I collapsed on his couch. He had his garage door half open, tinkering with something I couldn't be bothered to look at. It was the first time in a long while I didn't have the energy to pretend I wasn't drowning. Everything all right? Dave asked, pulling off his gloves as he leaned against the workbench. I didn't have an answer right away. I stared at the ceiling, tracing the grooves in the drywall like they were more interesting than the hell inside my head. When I didn't say anything, Dave sighed and grabbed 2 beers from the fridge. You know you can talk to me, right? He said, tossing one toward me. I caught it instinctively but didn't open it. You look like you've been through a meat grinder, he said, leaning back into his chair, watching me carefully. Finally, I dragged my eyes from the ceiling and met his. I left Rachel. The words came out like a confession. He didn't blink, didn't ask questions immediately. Instead, he just nodded like he'd been waiting for that. What happened? Everything, I said. My voice was low, like I was trying to make sense of the mess that had been made. The snub at the awards ceremony. Wait, you left because of the speech? Dave interrupted, his brows furrowing. No! I shook my head, the anger still simmering in my chest. It wasn't just the speech, it's everything. I've been getting the feeling for months that I'm just a fucking accessory to her. At the ceremony, she didn't thank me. She didn't even look at me. I'm invisible. Dave shifted in his chair, eyeing me like he wanted to say something, but wasn't sure how to. You don't really think she meant to do that, right? I paused. The reality of the situation was setting in, and it hurt even more when I said it out loud. It felt intentional, Dave. She was surrounded by people she thinks are more important than me. Her career, her image. It's like she's built this whole life without me in it, or like I'm just there when it's convenient. I paused, my voice getting tighter. She didn't even care when I called her out. She just tried to brush it off like it was no big deal. Dave didn't interrupt this time. He just listened. I ran a hand through my hair, frustration boiling over. I'm not saying she's having an affair or anything, but the way she's acting with Porter, I don't know. It's like they're more than just colleagues. There's something there, and I can't stand it. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like I'm losing her. Dave took a swig from his beer, his gaze steady on me. Sounds like you're feeling a lot of shit all at once, and Rachel's not making it any easier by playing the work card every time. I let out a breath, holding the beer in my hand, the bottle cool against my skin. Exactly. I just want to feel like I matter to her. Not just in some professional capacity, but like I matter. Dave leaned forward. Do you think she even knows what she's doing to you? Or is she just so wrapped up in this version of herself that she's missing how much it's hurting you? I thought about that. Could she really be that unaware? It didn't feel like it. She knows, I said, though my voice wavered a little. She has to know. But I think she's so focused on making sure she doesn't lose her independent image that she's forgotten we're supposed to be partners. She doesn't need me in the way I need her. Dave took another drink, glancing away. That's a tough one. She's not exactly showing you that she needs you, huh? Number? She's just treating me like I'm some afterthought, like I'm a damn accessory in her life. I swallowed hard. I can't keep pretending I'm okay with that. I sat there, trying to let the silence settle in, but I was too wound up, too tangled in the mess of it all. What are you going to do now? Dave asked finally after a long pause. I don't know, I muttered. I'm not sure what I can do, but I can't go back home tonight. Not with all this hanging over me. I just need some space, some time to think. Dave didn't press me further. He just nodded, understanding without needing to ask more questions. For the rest of the night, we didn't talk about Rachel. Instead, we worked on the damn garage, fixing up a few things that had been bugging Dave for weeks. It felt good, having something to focus on, something simple, no layers of deceit or confusion. Around mid-afternoon the next day, I heard my phone buzz a few times. I didn't look at it. I already knew who it was. Rachel's name popped up, followed by a few more texts. I finally glanced at the messages, unsure of how I was supposed to feel when I saw the mix of anger and pleading. Rachel. Where are you? Rachel. We need to talk. Please. I don't want to fight. Rachel. Mark, I'm sorry. Please don't do this. Don't leave. I stared at the screen, my finger hovering over the reply button. What was I supposed to say to that? I hit ignore instead. By the time I showed up to work on the second day, I was trying to push everything with Rachel to the back of my mind. I didn't want to think about the texts or her refusal to see how much she was pushing me away. But of course, she showed up at my office. I heard the familiar voice before I even saw her. Mark? I looked up to find her standing outside my office, her eyes locked on mine, expression hard to read. She was wearing that soft, apologetic look she always used when she wanted something. I need to talk to you, she said, stepping inside the door without waiting for me to respond. We need to talk, please. I didn't move. About what, Rachel? Her shoulders slumped slightly and she looked around at the office, glancing nervously at the other employees who were now staring. Not here, she said quietly, her voice low. Outside? I followed her, but the whole time, my mind was racing. What did she think this was going to fix? Was this some last-ditch attempt to get me back? Or was it just more of the same? Her acting like nothing happened, pretending it was all in my head. We stood outside, the cool air hitting my face, as she spoke first. I didn't want to hurt you, she began, her voice soft, almost hesitant. Then why did you? I shot back, my words sharp. I couldn't help it. I wasn't ready to let go of the anger yet. Rachel looked down, biting her lip. I never meant to hurt you, Mark. She stopped, clearly searching for the right words. I've been so focused on myself and my career that I didn't realize how much I was pulling away from you. But that doesn't mean I don't need you, or that I don't care about you. It's just... She paused, taking a shaky breath. I don't know how to make it right. You want to make it right? I asked, stepping back a little, trying to gauge if she even understood what she was asking. I do, she said, nodding earnestly. But I can't fix this if you don't give me a chance. I just need you to come home. I stared at her for a long moment, the air between us thick with unsaid words. It was clear she wasn't ready to hear what I was really thinking. I don't know if I can, Rachel, I said quietly, my voice softer now. I'm not sure you understand what's really going on here. Scene 6. The breaking point. I couldn't do it anymore. I had tried for months, ignoring the signs, making excuses for Rachel, believing she would eventually see me the way I saw her. But the truth hit me harder than I expected. She hadn't been seeing me at all. I stood in the parking lot outside my office on Saturday afternoon, the air cold and biting as Rachel's car pulled into the lot. She was here. She'd come to find me, just like I knew she would. When she stepped out of the car, her face was pinched, her eyes tired. But there was something else there too. Something I couldn't quite place. I didn't know what I was supposed to feel. I hadn't answered her texts. I hadn't replied to her calls. I was still angry. I was still hurt. Mark. Her voice cracked just a little, like she was trying to keep herself together. Please, can we talk? I crossed my arms. I didn't want to do this. Not here, not now. But I wasn't about to just walk away. What's there to talk about, Rachel? My voice was colder than I meant it to be. You've been treating me like I'm invisible, like I don't matter unless it fits your narrative. Her face softened and she stepped closer, but I held my ground. I never meant for you to feel that way. I wanted to scream at her. You didn't mean it? Of course you didn't. But your actions speak louder than anything you could say. Then why does it always feel like I'm the one who's supposed to just fall in line with everything you do? I shot back, the frustration bubbling up again. Why is it that your career, your image, is always more important than our relationship? She flinched, and for a second, I thought she might say something that would make it better. That would make me feel like I wasn't just fighting alone. But her lips pressed into a thin line, and I could tell she was holding herself back, trying to choose the right words. I've been focused on my career, she said finally, her voice quiet. But there was a sense of finality in her words. I know it's been at the cost of everything else, but that doesn't mean I don't care about you. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But it didn't feel real. She couldn't even look me in the eye when she said it. You've been so focused on making sure you're seen as self-made, I said, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. You're too busy trying to prove something to everyone else to even notice how much I've been giving up, how much I've been holding everything together. Rachel looked away. Her voice trembled as she spoke, and I could tell it wasn't easy for her to admit. I've been scared, Mark, she said, her voice breaking slightly. I've been trying to build something that's mine. I didn't want to rely on you, and I thought if I showed how independent I could be, it would prove that I was strong enough to do this on my own. I couldn't process it. The words didn't make sense. She didn't want to rely on me, after everything. She really didn't see how much I'd given, how much I'd been there for her when she needed someone. You don't think I've been trying to be there? I asked, my voice cracking. You don't think I've been proud of you? But it's not enough, is it? It's never enough. She shook her head, but it was like I wasn't even in the room anymore. I didn't want you to think I was weak, she said, almost to herself. I thought if I could keep everything in balance, I wouldn't lose myself, lose my image. And if I let you in, I might seem like I couldn't handle it all. Is that what you think? I said, trying to hold back the anger that kept pushing against my ribs. That you'd be weak if you needed me? Rachel's eyes softened, but the damage had already been done. It wasn't about you, she said quietly. It was about me. I've been trying to be someone I'm not, and it's eating me up, and I see now that it's hurting you too. I stepped back, my hands shaking at my sides. Rachel, I've been nothing but supportive. I've been cheering you on, holding down the fort while you built this career, and you couldn't even acknowledge me in front of your colleagues. You couldn't even thank me for all I've done, not once. She looked at me, her eyes full of tears now. I didn't know how to balance it all, she whispered. I didn't know how to show you I needed you and still keep my independence. I shook my head, unable to comprehend what she was saying. You think you can do it all by yourself, but you can't. You've been shutting me out. You've been pushing me away for months, Rachel. And I'm done pretending like everything's fine when you treat me like this. She reached out, like she was trying to stop me from leaving, but I took another step back. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep fighting for a relationship that's one-sided. You've been so focused on making sure you don't need me. You forgot that I'm here, that I need you too. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. I'm not coming back tonight, I said, the finality in my words catching both of us off guard. I need space, Rachel. I can't fix this if you don't see what's wrong. I do see it, she said, her voice soft and pleading now. I do. Please don't leave me. I didn't want to hurt her, but I had to. I'm not leaving you for good, but I need time. I need to figure out if I can even trust you anymore. Her face fell, and she closed her eyes for a second, like she couldn't bear to hear the words. I'll give you space, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I walked away without another word, my heart heavy, but my mind clear. I didn't know where I was going next, but I knew this couldn't go on. I needed time away from her. I needed to see if I could still be me without the weight of her neglect hanging over me. And maybe, just maybe, if she really understood what she had done, she would find a way to make it right. Scene 7. The proposal for change. A week had passed since the fight. A week since I'd left, since Rachel and I had barely spoken except for her texts, which I'd ignored. I'd stayed at Dave's place trying to clear my head, but honestly, all I'd done was toss and turn, replaying everything in my mind, waiting for the next wave of her texts, or worse, her pleas. I hadn't expected Rachel to reach out so soon, but she did. She asked if we could meet at a coffee shop, somewhere neutral, she said, away from the house. When I walked in, I spotted her right away, sitting by the window, looking smaller than I remembered. Her hair was a little messier than usual, and her makeup wasn't as done up, but there was something about her that made me pause. She looked normal, not the polished, perfectly put together Rachel I had seen in the weeks before, but the woman I had known before all of this, the one I'd fallen in love with. "Mark," she said when she saw me. She stood, a hesitant smile crossing her face, but she didn't come over to hug me, and I was kind of relieved. I wasn't sure I wanted that yet. "Hey," I said, sliding into the seat across from her. I wasn't sure what to expect, but at least she looked like she was trying to talk, trying to make sense of everything, not just deflect. "Can we just talk?" she asked, her voice soft. "I know I've messed up, and I don't know how to fix it. I just know I need to try." I sighed, running my hands through my hair. "You're right about that, Rachel. You've messed up." She bit her lip, her eyes flickering with a mix of regret and something else, something I couldn't read. "I know," she said, nodding slowly. "I haven't been fair to you. I've been so focused on what I wanted, on proving something to myself that I lost sight of what I have with you, and I don't want to lose you." I wasn't sure how to take that. A part of me wanted to believe her, but the other part of me was still too hurt. "You did lose me," I said quietly, looking at her, searching for any signs that this wasn't just another conversation where she'd apologize and then move on with her life, leaving me in the background again. "You've been so consumed with your image, with building this life without me, that I don't know if I can trust you anymore." Her eyes filled with more tears, but she didn't cry. She wiped them away quickly and straightened up, steadying herself. "I've been focused on projecting this self-made image, Mark. I thought that if I made it on my own, it would somehow make me more worthy of everything I have. But now, I see that I've been pushing you away." I wanted to shake her, tell her she wasn't worthless because she had me, but I didn't. I was too tired of being the one to carry the weight. "I've always been proud of you, Rachel, but you never let me be a part of it. You never let me in." She paused for a long time, staring at her coffee cup before meeting my eyes. "I didn't know how. I've been so afraid of looking weak, of relying on you, because I didn't want to seem like I couldn't do it on my own." I let out a breath, trying to rein in the anger that was bubbling back to the surface. "You think asking for help makes you weak?" My voice was low, sharp. "You think I wanted you to do it all alone?" Rachel looked down, her fingers tracing the rim of her cup. "No," she whispered. "But I guess I thought if I asked for help from you, I'd lose control. I didn't want to depend on you because then I'd have to admit I couldn't do it by myself." I swallowed, feeling like I was suffocating from everything that had been unsaid between us for so long. "Rachel," I said, my voice unsteady but forceful, "you did lose control. You lost us." She nodded, her face crumpling, but she didn't say anything for a long time. I could feel the walls we'd built between us, her image, my need for space, crumbling as the silence stretched on. Finally, she broke it. "I've been seeing a therapist. I know it's not enough, but I'm trying to change. I'm working on my issues, and I want to work on us too, but I need you to help me. I need your trust back." Her words hung in the air. She was asking for something big, and I wasn't sure I was ready to give it. I had spent so long trying to get her to see me, to value me, to make me feel like I mattered. I didn't know if I could just give that trust back so easily. "Okay," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "But what does that look like? Because I can't keep going like this, Rachel. I can't keep being the last priority in your life. You're either in this with me, or I'm done." Rachel's eyes flickered with something, fear, hope, guilt, I couldn't tell, but she nodded. "I know. I want us to be in this together, Mark. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I just need you to meet me halfway." I stared at her for a long moment, the weight of everything pressing down on me. I didn't want to get my hopes up again. I didn't want to go through another round of broken promises. But something in her tone, in the way she was sitting there, vulnerable, honest, tired, made me think that maybe, just maybe, she meant it. I'm willing to try, I said finally, but it's going to take time. I need to see that you're serious. I will show you, she promised. Her voice was steady now, determined. Let's take this slow. Let's build it back, one step at a time. We sat there for a while, neither of us rushing to fill the silence. It wasn't fixed. Hell, it wasn't even close to being fixed. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like maybe we could start working our way back to something real. I'm in, I said quietly, finally breaking the silence. Rachel looked at me with that familiar glimmer of hope in her eyes. Thank you. I wasn't sure if it would work. I wasn't sure if I was ready to trust her again, or if she would truly follow through. But for the first time in months, I had something to hold on to. Something that felt like it could pull us back from the edge. I just hoped we could both keep our promises. Scene 8. The 3-month trial. We'd made it through the first 2 months of the trial period with a kind of effort that felt like we were on the edge of something good. Almost there, but still shaky. The counseling sessions on Tuesdays helped, though at times it felt more like going through the motions than truly digging deep. The date nights on Fridays were decent, but we'd often end up talking about work or the kids or just about anything that wasn't us. And Sundays were almost sacred with the no-work rule, but it still felt like we were trying to patch a hole with a Band-Aid. I wasn't sure what I expected from this 3-month trial, but the more time we spent apart, the more I realized I wasn't sure if we were making progress or just holding on by a thread. And then there was the job offer. It came on a Tuesday, the same day we were scheduled for counseling. I wasn't even expecting it, but as soon as I opened the email, I saw the opportunity for what it was, a real change, something that aligned with my long-term goals. The firm was non-profit focused, the pay was decent, and it felt like a step towards something more fulfilling than the corporate grind I had been stuck in. That evening, after therapy, Rachel and I sat down to talk about it. Her eyes were a little too wide when she first looked at me, like she was bracing herself for another tough conversation. So, what's this job about? She asked, her tone a little more neutral than I expected. I showed her the details, explaining the offer and what it would mean for me. It's something I've been thinking about for a while. I'd be working with a nonprofit, managing their finances, helping them build a better future with the right resources. I think it's the kind of work I want to do, long term. Rachel leaned back in her chair, her arms crossed. Sounds great, she said, nodding slowly. I'm glad you're getting the chance to focus on your goals. I wasn't sure what to make of her response. Was she really okay with it, or was she just trying to act supportive? For the first time since we started this trial period, I couldn't read her. You think it's a good idea? I asked, leaning in, looking for more than just surface-level approval. I mean, it would mean less time at home, less time together, honestly. She sighed, rubbing her forehead, like the decision was weighing on her. I think it's great for you, Mark. I do. You've always wanted to focus on the kind of work that matters, and this sounds like it's in line with your long-term goals, but... She paused, her eyes catching mine. I guess I just worry about the balance. The last thing I want is for us to drift again, you know? I don't want to feel like I'm losing you to work. Not again. I nodded, swallowing hard. I get that, and I don't want that either. But I need something that feels like it has purpose, something that aligns with who I am. I don't want to stay stuck in a job just for the paycheck, Rachel. She shifted in her seat, her eyes softening. I know. I understand, Mark. I guess we just need to figure out how we're going to make it all work. How to balance everything. Your job, my career, us. I took a deep breath. We've been working on that, haven't we? I think this job could be part of that. But we need to keep the lines open. We need to stay in sync, Rachel. She smiled, but it wasn't the smile I wanted. It was one of those, I'll do whatever it takes smiles, but I wasn't sure if we were on the same page yet. I agree, she said softly. I want us to be in sync too. For the rest of the evening, we talked more about the job, but something was different. There was this underlying tension, like we were dancing around a subject neither of us wanted to confront, head on. And even though we both agreed that the job was a good step for me, it felt like we were both holding our breath, wondering what would come next. By the end of the night, I was still torn. I wanted this job, wanted to take the leap, but I wasn't sure if it was the right time for us. Would it pull me away from Rachel again? Would I lose the connection we were fighting so hard to rebuild? Mark, there's one more thing, Rachel said as we stood up from the table. I could see she was hesitant, like she was about to share something important. "I've been offered a higher position at the firm." My heart stopped for a beat. "A higher position?" I repeated, unsure of what she meant. She nodded, running her fingers through her hair. "It's a big step. It means more responsibility, more hours, but it also means more stability for us, more opportunities." I stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. "So you'd take it?" Rachel bit her lip. "I don't know. That's why I wanted to talk to you about it. It's a huge decision, and it's not just about me. It's about us, and how we can make this work. If I take this position, I'll need to be fully committed. More time at the office, more late nights. But I'm willing to do it if it means we can finally figure out this balance." I felt a pang in my chest. She had always pushed for success, but now she was choosing it over us. Her career had always been her focus, but now it seemed like she was telling me it might be too much for us to handle. "What do you want to do?" I asked, my voice quieter than I intended. She sighed, rubbing her temple. "I don't know, Mark. I want to keep growing, but I don't want to lose what we have. I need your input. This isn't just about my career, it's about us, and how we can keep this balance." I thought for a moment, staring at the ground. "I want you to go for it," I said, my voice steady. "I want you to do what makes you happy, but we need to make sure we're still here, together. We need to keep our relationship as a priority too, Rachel. No more pushing each other aside for the sake of your image." She nodded, her eyes a little more focused now. "I agree. I'll bring it up in counseling. I want us to work through this, together." We didn't have all the answers, and I wasn't sure if we ever would, but that night, it felt like we were one step closer to finding the balance we'd been searching for. Scene 9. Coming home with conditions. 3 weeks had passed since Rachel and I sat down at that coffee shop, hashing things out, trying to figure out if there was a way forward. We had started putting in the work, therapy, date nights, and a whole new rhythm to our lives. But even as we worked through things, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were both still treading water, neither of us fully convinced that things would ever feel normal again. Then came the dinner. It was Rachel's idea to go back to the place where we'd had our first date, the Italian restaurant we used to love. She'd reserved a quiet booth in the corner, a gesture that felt so familiar, so right, that I almost let myself believe things were falling back into place. We'd agreed to talk, really talk, about the future, about us. The weight of our conversation was hanging in the air between us as we sat down, the dim lights casting shadows across her face. "Mark," Rachel said, her voice softer than usual, "I've been thinking a lot about where we go from here, and I know things aren't fixed yet, but I want to try." She paused, taking a deep breath. "I know it's not going to be easy, but I think we can rebuild. I want us to rebuild." Her words hit me harder than I expected. Rebuild. It was what I'd been waiting for, but now that it was here, I wasn't sure if I was ready, but I had to be. For both of us. "I'm in," I said, my voice low. "But it has to be different this time, Rachel. No more excuses, no more putting work or your image before us. We can't keep pretending like it's just about the surface-level stuff." Her eyes flickered with something, relief, maybe. She nodded slowly. "I know, and I've realized I need to prioritize us. I can't keep hiding behind this professional image. I can't keep acting like I can do it all alone. I need you, Mark. I want you to be part of my life again, the way we used to be." It wasn't perfect. Hell, it wasn't even close. But it was a start. And it was better than the silence that had hung between us for so long. "I've thought about it," I said, laying out my conditions, careful with each word. "We need continued counseling, not just because we have to, but because we need to. We can't just go through the motions. And we need those date nights. No work talk, no distractions, just us. And when problems come up, we need to talk about them immediately. No more waiting until they become mountains." Rachel looked at me, her eyes softening as she listened. "I agree," she said quietly. "And I promise I'll keep trying. I'll work on not shutting you out. I won't let my career or my image take over again. We're in this together now." There was a long pause. I could see the vulnerability in her eyes, and for the first time in a long time, I believed she was being honest. This wasn't just her talking to get me back, to make it all go away. She was really here, wanting to rebuild. "I'm willing to give it a shot," I said, leaning back in the booth. "But I need to see real change, not just in you, but in how we handle everything, how we handle us. I can't keep being invisible in your life, Rachel. You have to let me be a part of it." She nodded again, her fingers tapping lightly on the table. "I know, and I will. I'll make sure of it." We stayed in that booth for a while, not saying much, just existing in the quiet of what felt like a new chapter. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start I could work with. The next few weeks passed in a blur. We stuck to our plan, seeing each other more, talking more, working through the stuff that had built up between us over the years. It wasn't always easy, but it felt like we were inching towards something that could work, something real. Then came the charity event. We had agreed that we would go, but Rachel kept me by her side all night. She introduced me to people with pride, mentioning my new job without hesitation. I could see the change in her. She wasn't just showing off her success, she was showing me off too. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like the accessory. I felt like I belonged there with her. At one point, she even gave a short speech. It was brief, but meaningful. And when she thanked the people at home, she looked directly at me. Her smile wasn't forced. It wasn't the corporate smile I'd seen at events before. It was real. It was for me. I felt a lump form in my throat. It wasn't just gratitude, it was acknowledgement. She saw me. We walked around the room, talked to some of the guests, but most of the night, Rachel kept me close. There was no more pretending I didn't exist in her world. She was introducing me as her partner, not as an afterthought. As we headed home that night, I could feel the shift between us. The tension, the doubt, all of it felt like it had been lifted. The way Rachel held my hand in the car, the way she looked at me with those soft eyes that had been missing for so long, it all felt like the beginning of something new, something we could build together. When we got home, she turned to me before we went inside. "Thank you for being there with me tonight," she said softly, her hand resting on my chest. "I know I've messed up, but I'm really trying. I need you to know that." I looked at her, finally feeling like maybe we were on the same page again. "I know, and I'm proud of you. Proud of us." She smiled and leaned in, kissing me lightly on the lips. It wasn't some grand gesture, but it felt like a promise. We had a long road ahead, but for the first time in months, I wasn't afraid of what might come next. Together, we could figure it out. And that was enough. For now. Scene 10. The Test and the Choice. The day Rachel showed me the email from Porter, my stomach tightened. It wasn't the first time I'd seen his name pop up in her inbox, but this time was different. This time, the message wasn't about business, it was personal. "Look," Rachel said, holding up her phone as if it didn't matter at all. "He suggested we have dinner instead of the usual office meeting next week." I stared at her, unable to hide the unease creeping in. "Dinner?" I repeated. The word lingered in the air between us like it had weight, like it meant something more than a casual meeting. "Are you serious?" She nodded, meeting my gaze, her expression calm but guarded. "It's nothing, just a suggestion." He was being polite. I could feel my jaw tightening. "Polite?" I repeated, forcing the words out slowly. "Since when do business meetings need to happen over dinner, Rachel?" She didn't answer immediately. She just stood there, eyes flicking to the phone in her hand, before she glanced back at me, like she was preparing to say something that would make it all okay. "It's no big deal," she said finally, her voice steady, but her fingers tapping nervously on the screen. "I'll just reply saying we'll keep it during business hours. No harm done." But the words didn't feel convincing, not to me. The idea that this was nothing lingered in my mind, making everything feel like a game where I was the last one to know the rules. I watched her type out a quick reply. "Dinner's not necessary. I'll bring a colleague instead." It was clean, simple, to the point. She handed me her phone after hitting send. "I've dealt with it," she said. "There. Problem solved." I stared at the message for a long time, my finger hovering over the screen. "Rachel, this could cost the firm the account. You know that, right?" Her eyes softened, a little unsure now. "I know," she said quietly, "but some things are more important. I want to show you that this isn't about him or me." There was something in her tone that hit me differently this time, something real. "I'm not asking you to control me," she said, her voice careful but honest. "I'm asking you to trust me, trust that I can make these decisions without it meaning something else, without it being about anything other than work." I swallowed hard, the knot in my chest loosening a little. It wasn't about control, it was about respect, about showing me she could choose us over whatever flirtation or temptation was out there, even if it was subtle. For the first time, I realized that it wasn't about the dinner or the meetings or Porter. It was about the choices she was making and whether I was part of those choices. I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in a while. She was trying, but it wasn't just her actions that mattered. It was the intent behind them. And in this moment, I saw it. She was making the right choice, even if it was a small one. "I'm proud of you," I said quietly, the words coming out easier than I expected. "It's not just about dinner, it's about what you're showing me right now, that you're keeping your integrity, that we're keeping our integrity." She smiled, a little tentative at first, but the warmth in it spread like sunshine through the tension that had built between us. "I won't let you down again," she said softly, her voice steady. I nodded, feeling the weight of her words settle over me. We weren't perfect. Hell, we were far from it. But this moment felt like we were finally moving towards something real, something worth keeping. We drove home together, the silence between us more comfortable than it had been in a long time. The future was still uncertain. We both knew that. But I could feel the balance shifting. We were starting to build something new, together. It wasn't guaranteed. It never would be. But in that moment, for the first time in what felt like forever, I knew we were in it. And that made all the difference.